Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurajra binti Zainul and I'm from the MK3A and I will answer the first question from the article given. For question 1, is the low or high inflation rate an absolute indicator of an economy in good or bad stage? Explain. For the first answer, low inflation rate. A low inflation rate or deflation could show weak demand, like during the COVID-19 pandemic or the 2009 financial crisis. In such case, businesses may suffer, leading to job losses and less consumer spending, which signal economic trouble. On the other hand, a low but steady inflation rate make sure that the economy is stable, with price rising slowly and giving people more certainty in their spending. Number 2, high inflation rate. High inflation usually means there are more demand or rising costs for goods and service. While this could indicate a growing economy, it also means that prices are rising, which can reduce people buying power. In extreme case, like hyperinflation, it can lead to serious problems such as loss of trust in the current and even economic collapse. But not least, content matter. The article stressed that inflation rates should always be looked at in content. For example, during the East Asian financial crisis, inflation went up while the economy suffered. In contrast, inflation dropped during the COVID-19 pandemic because the economy was shrinking. Historical patterns, such as those seen in 2011, show that inflation rates go up and down based on different external factors. So the conclusion for question 1, in conclusion, while the inflation rate is an important economic indicator, it should not be viewed in isolation. Low or high inflation can mean different things depending on the context. Understanding inflation required considering various factors and historical trends as they influence how it impacts the economy. As a comprehensive perspective is critical for effective economy assessment and policy planning.
Next, I'm going to answer question 2, which is identify and explain the types of inflation based on the article. But first, what is inflation? Inflation is when prices of goods and services go up over time. It's important to understand why this happens because it affects our daily life. I will explain three main types of inflation, which is cost push inflation, demand pull inflation, and also deflation. Let's get started. First, let's look at cost push inflation. This type of inflation happens when it becomes more expensive for companies to make products. Because their costs go up, companies increase the prices of the thing they sell, so this leads to inflation. In the article, we see an example from Malaysia during the economic crisis in 1997, also 1998. At that time, the value of the Malaysian currency dropped. This made it more expensive to import goods from other countries. As a result, businesses raised their prices to cover these higher costs. The inflation rate during that time reached 5.3%. So this matters shows how increased production costs lead to higher prices for us as consumers. Next, we have demand pull inflation. This occurs when there are many people wanting to buy the same products, but there isn't enough supply to meet that demand. When demand is higher than what's available, businesses can increase their prices because consumers are willing to pay more to get what they want. The article also talks about what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic hit, many businesses had to close and people lost their job and unsure how to spend their money. This led to a huge drop in demand for products. Because of this, prices didn't go up. In fact, inflation went negative at one point. So, demand pull inflation is about how strong desires to buy things can drive prices up, while a lack of demand can keep prices low. Lastly, deflation. Deflation is when prices decrease over time, which sounds good at first. However, it can be harmful to the economy. When people see prices falling, they often decide to wait to buy things, hoping prices will drop even more. This leads to less spending, which hurts businesses because they sell fewer products. The article gives us an example from Japan, where deflation has been a problem for many years. Because people expect prices to keep falling, so they don't spend money. This result can cause slowing economy and businesses struggle to make profit. So, even though lower prices might seem nice, deflation can lead to bigger problem for everyone. To sum up, we have learned about three types of inflation: cost push inflation, demand pull inflation, and also deflation. Overall, cost push inflations happen when production costs rise, leading to higher prices for consumers. And demand pull inflation occurs when there's a lot of demand but not enough supply, pushing prices up. Finally, deflation is when prices goes down, which can cause people to stop spending their money and hurt the economy. Understanding these types of inflation is very important because they show us how prices can change and why it matters. We need to find a balance. Too much inflation can make it hard for people to afford things, but too little inflation or deflation can lead to a struggle economy.
Next question, which is question 3, I will explain the policy measures that could be effective in controlling rising inflation in Malaysia. Inflation is one of the key indicators of an economy's health. When prices rise too quickly, it reduces consumer purchasing power, and if it slows down too much, it could be the state of being inactive. So, this is to calculate inflation using Consumer Price Index. Inflation rate equals CPI in current period minus with CPI in previous period and then divided by CPI in previous period and multiply 100. And you will get the inflation rate. In addition, policy measures are very effective to help control rising inflation in Malaysia. First, monetary policy. The central bank, which is Bank Negara Malaysia, control inflation by adjusting the overnight policy rate. OPR. If there is interest rates, borrowing gets more expensive and people will spend less. This helps lower inflation. They can also adjust the money supply by selling government securities. Next, fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the government can also control inflation by cutting back on spending or raising taxes. Spending less lowers demand and raising taxes means people have less money to spend, which helps slow down the inflation. And the last one is price controls and subsidies. Price control and subsidies stated that government controls prices by setting limits on essential stuff like food and fuel. They also provide subsidies to lower costs for consumers, although the subsidies can be expensive for the government to bear. So, as per the conclusion, policy measures play a crucial part in handling inflation in Malaysia. Inflation means prices keep going up over time, which makes our money worth less. To stop this, the government adjusts things like interest rates and how much it will spend. This helps keep the economy stable and stops our money from losing too much value. Next, risk of deflation. Risk of deflation means we also have to watch out for deflation, which happens when prices go down too much. When that happens, people might wait to buy things, hoping prices will drop more. But if everyone waits, businesses will suffer, demand falls, and the economy can be slowed down. And the next is the impact of low demand. Low inflation isn't always good either. If prices aren't rising enough, it could mean people aren't buying as much, which is bad for businesses. Low demand can lead to fewer jobs, less money, and slower growth in the economy. And the last one is balanced approach. Balanced approach means we need to find the right balance. The goal is to keep inflation moderate, not too high and not too low, so people keep spending and the economy stays healthy. So based on the article given, this is the conclusion that I could make.
Hi, I'm Mariam. Now, we are going to move to the last question, which is describe the potential consequences of prolonged reduction of inflation. Let's go. Effects of prolonged low inflation. It could be positive and negative. In positive side, prices rise slowly, making goods and services more affordable, especially for those on fixed incomes. Besides that, it also promotes stability, boosting business confidence in investments. Now we move to negative sides. Low inflation may signal weak demand, meaning less spending by people and businesses, slowing economic growth. And it also can lead to deflation, where falling prices make people delay purchases, further reducing demand and harming the economy. A low inflation rate isn't always a sign of a healthy economy. It depends on why inflation is low. Moderate inflation is ideal because it shows growth without harming purchasing power, while both high inflation and deflation can be damaging. Whether a high or low inflation rate is better depends on the situation. Moderate inflation is usually ideal because it shows the economy is growing at a healthy pace. High inflation is bad because it reduces the value of money, making things more expensive for people. On the other hand, very low inflation or deflation can slow down the economy because people and businesses may stop spending. In short, we cannot judge an economy just by looking at the inflation rate. It is important to consider the bigger picture and how inflation fits into the overall economic health. Now, we move to the additional information about the potential consequences of prolonged low inflation. When inflation is low, businesses cannot raise their prices much, which limits their ability to increase profits. However, their costs like wages they pay employees or the prices of raw materials may still be going up. This means their expenses are rising, but their income from sales isn't growing as fast. As a result, profits shrink. With less profit, businesses might not have enough money to expand, invest in new projects, or hire more employees or workers. Some may even cut back on hiring or reduce staff to save money. Because of that, this can slow down the economy because businesses are spending less and hiring fewer people and contributing less to overall growth. Now we are near to the end. In summary, while low inflation may sound like a good thing, because it keeps prices stable, prolonged periods of low inflation can have significant negative effects. It can hurt businesses, slow down wage growth, discourage investment, and increase the risk of deflation. Therefore, a balance is needed between inflation that is too high and inflation that is too low to ensure steady economic growth and stability.